very welcome back to the programme. Now, you will remember we were speaking yesterday about, obviously, the 1916 celebrations that went on over the Easter bank holiday weekend. Some people liked them, some people didn't, some people travelled to Dublin, some people didn't, but they still continue to cause a little bit of controversy, whether you're on one side or the other, you believe the rising should ever have happened, all the rest of it. Now, this morning as well, atheist leaders declined an invitation, we are learning, to take part in the Easter Rising commemorations because they believe the rebellion involved an undemocratic group killing innocent people. But no more than that as well, they say that Atheist Ireland is welcoming the government's intention to be inclusive to all religions and non-religious groups, but they maintain the state was reinforcing the rebellion's religious connotations by holding the celebrations on Easter Sunday. Atheist Ireland chairman Michael Nugent says the 1916 rising involved an undemocratic group killing innocent people based on a proclamation whose authors claim that Ireland was acting through them in the name of God. Now, John Hamill from Atheist Ireland joins us on the line this morning. John, first of all, I think there's a couple of things there that you have a problem with, but the first one we'll come to is the fact that you maintain by holding the commemorations on Easter Sunday rather than the 24th of April, you maintain instantly that the government was bowing to a certain degree to a religious connotation for the rising.
Yes, indeed. I should say first we didn't decline to participate because we weren't invited to participate. We were invited to watch.
All right. Well, that's what we apparently were led to believe, that you declined an invitation. But
yes, well, the invitation was to sit and watch along with the representatives of a number of minority religious denominations.
So you declined that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
It was only the Roman Catholic Church that was invited to participate, such that the ceremonies included Catholic priests reciting Catholic prayers. But actually, I think there's some justification for that. So the Catholic faith was clearly an inspiration to many of the leaders of the Rising.
No more than in loads of other wars, I suppose religion plays a part. Everybody invokes God, no matter who that particular God tends to be, don't they, really, when it comes to wars?
Well, no. I think everyone invokes God, and certainly not
or their
everyone.
own God is what I'm saying. I mean, you know, we're talking worldwide here. I'm talking Buddha, I'm talking whoever you want to talk about. But the fact is that when people go to perhaps lay down their lives in a cause they believe in, they will invoke their own protection of whatever form they want.
Well, I'm talking worldwide as well, Anne, and worldwide there's lots of people who don't believe in any God, and they don't use any religious justification to try and explain away religious martyrdom. So,
okay, but before we even come back to that, John, can we just come back to the fact of the government having it on Easter Sunday, the commemoration, instead of on the 24th of April? As I say, you feel that has continued the religious connotation to this?
Yes, it has, but as I was saying, I think there's some justification for having an explicitly Catholic ethos or an explicitly Catholic character to the ceremonies, given that the leaders justified a lot of their behaviour in the context of Catholicism. But actually, I'm sure many Catholics are as uncomfortable as we are with how Pearse associated Catholicism with, as he put it himself, warming the earth with red wine of the battlefield. I don't think many Catholics believe that their faith is about promoting bloodshed in the same way that Pearse did. But, I mean, Pearse had his own desire for religious martyrdom. He wrote, for example, one man can free a people just as one man redeemed the world. And he also wrote, Ireland will not find Christ's peace until she has taken Christ's sword. So, especially given the recent events in Brussels, I don't think it's unpatriotic to question the idea of religious martyrdom, especially when people
But isn't it something, it's not unusual, it's absolutely the norm, I would put it to you, John, for people, as I say, and history will show it right around the world and to modern days, unfortunately, as well, that people will invoke some kind of a deity in their cause. That's nothing new, nothing unusual about it.
Of course it's not. People have invoked deities since history began, right up until Brussels, not too long ago. people have invoked deities as the justification for why they spill blood. And I just because it's commonplace, I don't think it's necessarily a good thing.
No, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who would agree with that. But your particular argument is what?
Our particular argument is that if Catholic priests want to say their prayers as the tanks roll past in the parade, then they're perfectly entitled to do so, and that's absolutely fine. But that's not something that we feel that we want to support. And I should say, in your introduction, I know you were quoting certain passages from the statement accurately, but the impression that you gave was that in some way Atheist Ireland are taking a pro-British or an anti-Irish stance, which absolutely isn't the case, because a lot of people will quite rightly point out that the people who were opposed to the rising were in favour of sending Irishmen off to the Somme, and they also justified that on explicitly religious grounds, and we would be just as opposed to that as we are to Irish people doing the same thing. So if we were invited to go and listen to a Christian chaplain talk about how glorious it was to have all of this blood spilt in the Somme and Ypres, then we would not attend that either. So it's not the case that this is an anti-Irish or a pro-British position. It's a position that is opposed to the glorification of religious martyrdom. So I just read something recently that was written in 1916 by a guy called Arthur Winnington Ingram. He was Bishop of London at the time, and he wrote, the precious blood of our dearest boys mingles with the precious blood which flowed from Christ on the cross. And he wrote that about young men being sent off to the Somme and Ypres in 1916 to be slaughtered there. So all of this stuff, it's not by accident that I referred to Brussels. You could take a lot of the writings of Pearse and a lot of the writings of Rupert Brooke and other people who were glorifying what was happening in Flanders and replace Christ with Allah. And it's not that far away.
No, and I think a lot of people, I think a lot of people would draw their own conclusions and are seeing, if you like. But as I say, it's historical, I suppose, that unfortunately wars very often involve a religion of some kind. Would you have been happier, John, if the government here had decided to commemorate the rising on the 24th of April as opposed to Easter Sunday gone by?
Yes, and I would have been happier personally if it was less militaristic. But I should say there's people in our national executive at Atheist Ireland who had direct relatives who were involved in the rising. There's people in our national executive who buried their relatives with a tricolour on the coffin and shots being fired over the coffin. So everyone at Atheist Ireland will commemorate the rising in their own way. I have 4 children. I brought them all to the GPO last week. I'll be bringing them all to Glasnevin this week. So all of the Atheist Ireland members around the country will commemorate the rising in their own way, but none of them need to see Atheist Ireland committee members taking part in a photo op with a bunch of religious denominations in order to commemorate the rising.
Okay. How many members do you have around the country, John? How widespread is the movement?
So we have, I believe, around 500 direct members, and then we have an associate membership of other people who are activists, if you like, but don't come and vote in our AGM, and those activists would number in the thousands.
And would you believe that there are more people, perhaps because that sounds, I suppose, quite a small amount of people given our population, do you believe there are more people in this country who are atheists but just don't want to formalise that fact?
Yeah, there's lots of, Atheist Ireland wouldn't claim to be representative of all of the atheists in the country, so certainly there's a lot of people who don't believe in God and aren't member of Atheist Ireland. But we should also point out that even a lot of people going to church on Sunday are atheists, really. The Catholic bishops do a survey of the beliefs of Mass-attending Catholics every year, and consistently every year, 10% of Mass-attending Catholics say they don't believe in God. So those people are atheists too. So for sure, there's a lot more people in the country that don't believe in God and that believe in other gods. You know, the proclamation says, "We place the cause of the Irish Republic under the protection of the Most High God." Now, it doesn't say which God they think is the Most High one.
This is the point, isn't it? Yeah.
We can all guess, but there's lots of citizens of this republic who believe in other gods.
Okay. All right. Listen, John, thanks for joining us on the programme this morning. Appreciate that. And just interested to find out from John exactly how they felt and why they felt that the government shouldn't have commemorated the Easter rising on Easter Sunday, that it should have had more to do with the date of the 24th of April. I have to say that I think a lot of people inside and outside the country were coming up to this weekend. Now, there was a lot of publicity in advance, but I know that a lot of people were slightly confused as to when the main celebrations were taking place. Was it the 24th of April? Was it Easter Sunday or whatever? That's gone by now. We know what happened then. Okay, a couple of people calling in saying that I didn't let John speak enough in relation to his convictions. I think I did, but there you go.